Hello world, my name is Klaus Rostel and I'm doing 100 innovation keynotes in 100 days. Today is number 57 and today I'm going to talk about the influence model. Now first off, when we talk change, this is not about environmental change, it's not about geological change, it's not about the changing of the seasons. What I'm talking about here is organizational change, changes in companies, for example. And with that, let's introduce the star of today's show, the influence model. First off, full disclaimer, the influence model is a model from the consulting company McKinsey, and I sometimes work as a coach at the consulting company McKinsey. These two facts are not connected at all. There are others who use this model who have nothing to do with McKinsey. It's something that I can easily talk about. Articles have been written about. This is not spilling any secrets. Also, it's a model that's about 20 years old. So this has been around for some time. Others have covered this ground before. It's still an immensely useful model. That's why I'm covering it now. So first off, what is the problem? What's at stake here? The problem is that when it comes to change projects, well, success rates are very, very low. If you do these four things, is what the model says, you will improve the odds markedly. Now, I'm not going to go down the numbers road because this is a Klaus presentation, a Klaus keynote, and not a McKinsey presentation. If it was a McKinsey one, it would have exact numbers. I can tell you that. At one point during a kind of a job, I suggested using the words massive. And they said, no, not going to do that. We're going to say, is it 142? Is it maybe hundreds? That could maybe be allowed, but not this like massive precision. Exactness. Me, I get to be a little bit more grandiose with my language. So, the numbers behind this, though, are pretty damn good. If you do these four things, you will not necessarily be successful in your change project, but you will have boosted your odds considerably, markedly, one might even say. So, second, let's look at the model itself. First off, I'm representing it with a couple of colored arrows, and the reason for that is that while these don't directly feed into each other, there's a point to the model that if you do just one of the things, sure, that helps, but if you really want to kind of make it easier on yourself, make it better, then you should do all four of them, and they feed into each other. So while they don't feed directly necessarily in the order of the arrows, don't get too attached to this visual, there's still a reason that I'm doing this circular arrow thing. First off, fostering understanding and conviction, reinforcing with formal mechanisms, developing talent and skills, and finally, my personal favorite, role modeling. If we zoom in for a moment on this, if we double click on it, as some people in the consulting world would say, then the blue arrow, fostering understanding and conviction. Well, what does that mean? It means that you should know where you're going and what you're doing. You should have a clear idea of what is the vision of the organization and what is your role in it. What's actually going on here? The green one is reinforcing with formal mechanism. That means that if you are a team sport, for example, and you get bonuses for individual actions like scoring goals, that's not the best reinforcing of the behaviors you want with formal mechanisms. If you are being promoted for making no mistakes, then you're not going to have a culture that takes a lot of chances. Red, developing talents and skills. Do you actually know how to get there? Can we get the people in who know how to do the thing? Do we have the skills? Do we know how to turn on the printer, so to speak? Usually it's a bit more advanced than that. But developing that part of it, like one thing is knowing where we're going and being rewarded appropriately, or having the organization that actually supports what we're trying to do. But do we actually know how to do it? Also pretty crucial. And finally, yellow, the role modeling part. What does that look if we zoom in a little bit further? And this is taken directly from one of the McKinsey articles itself, so I'm going to quote. Blue, I understand what's being asked of me and it makes sense. This is pretty critical. Green, I see that our structures, processes, and systems support the changes I'm being asked to make. Now you'll notice that the guy who was the blue example here might just be confused for being a human. I understand what's being asked of me, and it makes sense. But I don't know if anybody in their right mind speaks casually, says, yes, I see that our structures, processes, and systems support the changes I'm being asked to make. But it makes sense. And that's the reinforcing with formal Now, training, developing skills and talent, I have the skills and opportunities to behave in the new way. This is pretty nice because not only do you need the skills, you also need the opportunity. It doesn't help that if you're changing, let's say it's an airport and you're changing how aircraft maintenance routines work, it doesn't really help if you were a security guard before and now you're a trained mechanic, but you don't get near the planes. You may have the skill, but you also need the opportunity. I love that phrasing. And finally, yellow. I see my leaders, colleagues, and staff behaving differently. And I think on this one, differently needs to be not just, oh, they're now jumping on their heads, but differently, like the right way or the new way. So I think here we have, for once, a chance of adding a little bit of clarity to the sentence. So what if we flip that? What if we look at when it doesn't work? Because this happens. This happens a lot. Blue. No one knows where we're going and why. That's going to put a grinding halt to any sort of change process. Like, sure, we've got the right skills and the leaders are great and they're doing what they can, but we don't really know where we're going. I don't know what's required of me. I don't know where the company's headed. That's pretty critical. Green. There's no connection between the vision and the reality. If you say, yes, we need to be lean and we need to be fast and we need to be efficient, and I would like a full 48-page proposal for where you want to move those chairs around in your own office, and I have time to look at it in 3 months. That's not really connecting reality with the vision. Or the classic example, if it's a team sport, but you give extra money to the goal scorers, then you're maybe not going to get the best team behavior. Red, we don't know how to do the things we should. That's pretty clear. We have all the opportunity. The security guard has been permitted to be near the aircraft to do the maintenance on them in our fictional scenario, but doesn't have any clue what to do. We don't have the right talent. We don't have the right skills. That's a pretty clear showstopper. And finally, this one. This is the tricky one, at least I find, that leaders aren't practicing what they preach. Now, these are 4 simple guidelines. If you do these, you will have a lot better chance at success. Don't just take my word for it, take McKinsey's. And don't just take McKinsey's word, take their data for it. However, this is easier said than done. It's definitely worth doing, but if you want to know more, go to mckinsey.com. There are articles, both the original, I think it's from 2003, and there's some newer ones. Interesting stuff. Google will help you find even more because there's a lot out there. Now, my personal experience, as mentioned a little bit, is that role modeling. That's the hardest one. Why is that? Why? Well, the thing is that even when we try to change the world, we don't really like changing ourselves. And so many projects, I've seen this up close. I've probably even been that leader from time to time, and I've seen this up close plenty of times, that you'll have somebody saying, we should do this. Just not me. We should encourage mistakes, but I'm going to chew out anyone who makes one near me. We should all move to the new platform, but I think it's too annoying, so send me an email with details. We should all work less because we don't want to overwork ourselves. Oh, and by the way, I'm working 80-hour weeks myself. Role modeling, so critical in so many ways. It's such an easy place to fail. And it's one of the toughest things because a lot of this stuff, it looks simple, isn't easy. And it starts, if you're one of the leaders, it starts with you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.